Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Rotation, baby! The #1 news sauce for CDL. COD talk, you know the vibe. I guess we could be a news sauce. I'm into that. My name is Ashley, aka MiDNiTE. I'm joined by the usual suspects, IKON Nation YT, the best breakdown vids on the planet for CDL, and then you got Kingdom Soldier, a mainstay in the competitive COD scene. Just great, talking points, commentary on the scene. Love to see it. Also, you have a mug that says morning, and it is 7:30 p.m. because we're live. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, we are live on video, and if you're listening after the fact, big shout outs to you. Really appreciate you. Make sure to follow and all that cool stuff. Hey, it's Jack's first time in the chat catching one of these live.
Let's go, Jack.
So welcome. Let's freaking go, baby. But so we've got, oh my gosh, man, like it is that time of year right now. Like the teams are pulling apart from one another. The teams are fighting their butts off for the best possible seeding at playoffs. We're ramping into CDL Major 4, which will be on LAN, which, gentlemen, that is in literally next week is when we're back on LAN. Local area network dominance will be had by who, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. So we could just kind of start. We're going to recap some things, talk about any relevant news in the CDL. Obviously want to talk RØKKR because it's a massive week for Minnesota RØKKR this week, but I just would love your guys' takes on the matches. Were there any surprises? I mean, other than me going perfect in predictions, would love to know your guys' thoughts on the weekend. We can start with you, Icon.
Yeah, I guess if we're starting off here, I guess the easiest place to start is that Minnesota did what they had to do. That's something that we talk about all the time, or at least a point that I bring up all the time, that if you want to get into that winner's bracket, you're always going to have a tough matchup against, whichever team is seeded first or second, somewhere in that range. In this scenario, it's Atlanta and OpTic. Those are always going to be tough matches, but if you want to move forward and get into the winner's bracket, you got to beat those teams that are usually seated underneath you. And that's what Minnesota was able to do recently. Most recent with the win against Seattle. So that match overall was pretty impressive. I thought the key going into that matchup was Seattle basically throughout the entirety of the year, but even more so as of late, has really been led by Octane and Gunless, and I thought it was really important for Major and Priesta to slay with them, especially when it came to some of the longer sightline maps that we played in that matchup. But so those two were able to do that. Major Maniac has looked really good in the matches since he's come on, minus that OpTic one, but that was the very first matchup, so that's to be expected. And he looked good in that too. I think he might have been the best player in that match across statistics. But I thought those two matched up really well. And where we were really able to win that matchup against Seattle was Standy just went bonkers. I mean, the kid went off. Attach played well too, but Standy had a 1.32. He had 96 kills in 4 maps. And when you're including S&D in one of those 4 maps, that's something that is pretty difficult to do. You look at like the damage numbers across the leaderboard, he had 17,000. And if you're looking at some of the SMGs over at Seattle, like Pristini had like 12,000. So that's a really big difference there. And he just played really well overall. So I think the biggest thing from that last weekend was just that Minnesota did what they had to do to put themselves in position. And this is always my favorite time of the year, or the favorite time of the stage, just because you have one more week of matches. And it seems like there are so many things that are wide open. And this is going to be the week that determines like who gets that advantage. And we talk about it all the time, just how important that advantage is in terms of getting in the winner's bracket, and not only for avoiding the potential of a first round knockout and stuff like that, but if you're able to get a win, or if you're able to get 2 wins, you're getting a ton of CDL points just based off of where you end up finishing in that stage overall. So this upcoming weekend, I'm super pumped to watch those matches. A couple other notes. Obviously, the biggest match from this past week was probably the New York versus Dallas match. I know Kingdom got a little excited, thought his boys were going to pull through, but Clayster and the gang had a little bit something different to say with it. I will say, when I was watching that around map 2 or so, definitely after the control when Dallas went up 2-1, I thought, oh boy, we might be losing some points here when it comes to our predictions, because they were playing super well at that point in time. Vivid, I thought, was the biggest key in that matchup. I know we did a whole breakdown on the podcast when he first got signed, but I just remember talking a ton about how his pace and his style is really going to match up well with Shotzi. And so far, those two have been playing really well. And I think that's a welcome sight for Dallas fans. Now, with that being said, they do have New York, Toronto, and Florida also in their group, and those 3 squads are also top tier. So will they be able to come back and make it into the winners bracket? We'll see when it comes to matches this week. They do have that head-to-head match against Florida, so that'll be a big one there. But on the flip side of that, I was super impressed that New York was able to regain their composure and come back. And especially when it came to the S&D on standoff, they just really looked like the better team. Asim played great. Clayster played great. So I will say, if you think back to like 2 or 3 weeks ago, somewhere in there, I think that we would probably say that New York is much better, or was much better than Dallas is. And I'm not really sure that reigns true anymore. I think that they're pretty compatible. And if you throw in, different maps, or a search round or 2 goes a different direction, we might end up having a different result in that matchup. So that was probably the match of the weekend for me. The only other one that I guess I'll mention right here is that Atlanta had a super decisive win over LA Thieves. I just think that LA Thieves at one point in time looked like they were falling. They made all those roster moves. Then with Venom and TJ, before they brought in Hugh, looked like they were gaining momentum and gaining pace, and they were getting better as that stage was going on. And now I'm just not really quite sure what to think about them again. So this upcoming weekend, it's on the match is on Friday, RØKKR versus LA Thieves. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about how important that one is. But I don't really know what to expect when it comes to LA Thieves in that matchup. Really, Kenny put up like a 0.9 in that matchup against Atlanta. Now, it is Atlanta, so you're probably not going to play great all the time. But still, I expected a little bit more from them, and I'm not really sure that we got it. So overall, I thought it was a great weekend. I think that it set the stage well for this upcoming weekend, and I'm just excited to see what happens with all of the matches this weekend, who makes it into winners, who makes it into losers. And there's also a super big weekend for Minnesota coming up with matches on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. So I did hope and wish, and so many things about that Dallas match. I was like, all right, Dallas, you're doing it. I was taking a shot there. I thought these guys would find form, and it looks like they have. A lot of talk, recently about them and OpTic specifically, maybe getting more coaches, and that might help. The best team in the league has the most coaches in the league with 4, and a lot of the other top teams have at least 2. And so it's for Dallas and OpTic both. Might be an opportunity for them to get some help for their coaches. They have great coaches. Cinder and Rambo are great, but for them to take that next step and clutch up against New York, maybe there's something else that they can do. New York had to win both hard points, which they're great at. But in that first one, I don't know if everybody saw the spawn, but there was a weird one in there that kind of was unpredictable towards the end of the game. But they did let New York come back. They had like an 80-point lead. 190 to something, and they let New York come back. So it was a close match, really good match. I thought the RØKKR did good, but again, that was a team they should beat. The goal was to beat them. It needed to be a 3-1 or a 3-0. I think I said that in last week's show, and they got a 3-1, and so that looks good. This is a big week for the RØKKR. This is a big week for Dallas. This is a big week for a couple of teams, and I think that the RØKKR have to win the match against the LA Thieves so that they can get top 3. and then put up a good fight against FaZe. But if they beat LAT, I believe even if they lose to FaZe, they'll get in. And so this is going to be that LA Thieves match is going to be really important for both teams. So Minnesota RØKKR will need to bring it, and then the next day, same time, so 24 hours later, basically, they go up against the best team in the game. I at some point on the show or on another show, I'd love to have the conversation as to whether or not, like, people keep asking, like, is FaZe going to be a dynasty? And I want to start the argument that they already are. That they've been the most dominant team for if Dallas didn't win last year, we'd already be calling them a dynasty. If
I think so too. I think them placing second in the finals of champs last year, like, it's that sliver of doubt of, like, well, they weren't able to do the thing. But even before then, they were looking dominant. They were picking up dubs, and it's just so impressive. So yeah, I would say FaZe. We'll look back in like 6 months or a year from now and be like, yeah, that was dynasty time. Like, we watched something incredible go down. So
we're never gonna
can't disagree there.
I don't think we're gonna see the level of. I was looking it up, and their record last year was 26-7, and they're 26-4 this year. Like, I don't think we're gonna see that level of back-to-back, just overall dominance in an organization. Now, the Tiny Terrors were there the whole time, but they switched a couple of players coming into this year, and so, but that organization in general and this team, and I think that's the only reason we can't say they're already a dynasty, is because they switched. And to your point, when the OpTic team was doing good year over year, not winning the thing, like you said, is what made it so that nobody was willing to call them the greatest Call of Duty roster of all time. It was like, they got to win champs. We can't call them the best Call of Duty roster of all time. It's like when LeBron didn't have a ring, no one would call him king, and so I get it. I understand. And I'm interested to talk about OpTic. I'm interested to talk about a lot of these teams as we go into this LAN and as we go into champs. Like, these last couple of weeks have been like, there's a separation happening in the league, and it's getting wider and wider and wider, to where the gap is widening so much. I mentioned it before the show, but the bottom 4 teams now have a collective record of 1-12, in the stage. Like, they've won one match in the entire stage. And, tough scenes for the Surge, going for the streak, but not a good one. But I thought all the matches were really good. I thought the matches this weekend were good. I think the storylines happening in the league right now are good. The Formal versus Crim, you love to see it. Going into LAN.
That's been wild,
crazy.
Dude.
I really want to see them play.
On LAN.
God, yes,
bro.
COD gods, be with us. Like, I really want to see them play each other, because when they played on LAN last year, at the beginning of the year,
at Minnesota, it was crazy.
The throwback huntsmen, they were talking trash for weeks on the timeline, and the rent-free stuff came up, and it was fun, and this is an interesting, a different time, because kind of Formal has taken the more vocal role on talking negatively about other teams on OpTic. That's been him this year. Like,
he's feeling himself.
Yes. And I hope I'm just gonna say it, and then I'll be done kind of for my recap or whatever, but I really hope that they back it up. This OpTic team I'm like, okay, every time you guys start talking mess and calling teams different tiers that they shouldn't be in and clowning players on the timeline, there gets this back and forth, and then you guys go to a match and you don't perform, and it's like, and that's why I love that Seth, he's really kept his nose clean a lot, this last year, because people have been talking about him, and he defends his skill and ability, but he's like, even when Formal said that and he's standing next to him, he's like, I'm gonna laugh out loud. I'm just gonna smile a little bit because we're being funny. Oh, it was like, Seth is very professional about it, and I just hope that Formal being vocal and all this kind of stuff doesn't turn into, should have kept your mouth shut, or something like that. Because if Dallas sees them on LAN and Crim gets to, it's just not going to be. It's good. It's going to be good.
It's
no matter
what. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. I think Crim has always kind of been like that a little bit too. At least in his earlier years, he wouldn't chirp too much, but he was definitely more vocal and always backed it up. And so, yeah, if they were to meet, that would be insane. Will DuPont in the chat says they could play against each other on LAN in winners if they both win out. So that's assuming I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know like the format of where the placings are in the group right now and where they could possibly end up in
They'll
that
meet
LAN
in
bracket. But
losers.
if that's true, whoo, my goodness. So let's take a look at the standings here, because you guys were talking about how we're starting to see some great separation here in the league. And I just want to point out, we've obviously emphasized it already with the New York Subliners versus Dallas Empire match. But that match, if Dallas Empire pulls that dub, they're tied for second. Dallas is right back in number 2 where they want to be, but they've been just consistently slipping down and down and down. And now Ultra is only 5 points behind them, which is pretty crazy. And then OpTic, they got hot, at the stage 3 major. What if they get hot at LAN? That's their whole thing, right? Is, well, it's not on LAN, and let's see if they can do it, And you go a little bit farther, unfortunately, and you see LA Thieves is ahead of RØKKR by 20. We play them on Friday, so that, obviously we're not going to overtake them, but we'll be, if we were to win, we would be only down by 10. But if we were to lose, we'd obviously be down by 30, which is pretty significant. And then, Florida's breathing down our necks. And then, like you guys mentioned, the bottom 4 teams, it's tough scenes for them right now. I feel them, especially the Gorillas, Love, Silly, Assault, Money Cheen, and their other player whose name I can't remember right now. I'm the worst. But shout out to their whole squad. Who is it? Can you guys name it?
Who are you talking about?
The guy on the LA Gorillas. Silly, Assault, Cheen,
Apathy.
Apathy.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't be on a Call of Duty podcast. I just lost my job as host. How could I forget Apathy? Oh my god, I'm fired. Okay, sorry, Apathy. You're the best.
Edit it out.
Podfather for life. Yeah, evened it out. But yeah, I mean, you look at the standings here, and it's getting dicey because we pretty much know at this point, bar any disasters, knocking on wood, especially for RØKKR, but we kind of know who's who and who's going into champs. But now it's all about fighting for that seeding. So if RØKKR is able to beat LA Thieves on Friday and, have a commendable performance on LAN, we could get into 6th. We could do it. That would put us in a pretty good spot going into champs, which I think would be so crucial. So let's talk a little bit more LAN. We kind of talked about it and the storylines going into it. Obviously, we'll definitely focus up on the final weekend of the stage here, the LA Thieves home series. It's this weekend. We'll go through those matches, but I just want to preview a little bit next week. Which team do you guys think has the most to prove on LAN? And which team do you guys actually think will prove the most on LAN? Who do you think is just going to show up and annihilate? And who do you think, after all this online talk and all this stuff, do you think has to come to LAN and actually show their worth, show what they've been saying? Icon, I'll go to you first. We haven't heard from you in a sec.
It's a tough question, because when I think of this question, I always think of who on which rosters maybe aren't the most proven at this point in time. So initially, as I look up and down the standings, I mean, if you look at Atlanta, obviously they're proven. Simp and Abizi have been doing it since they came into the league in MiDNiTE a couple of years ago. New York, you could go New York also. We really haven't seen a ton from Hydra, and he's really given them the shot that they needed and the boost that they've needed as of late. So we'll see there. But even still with him, that's really only 1 out of the 4 pieces. For me, I think if I look at those top 4 or 5 squads, I think Toronto is probably the one that I'm watching the most, just because how much have they really proven in a LAN environment? I think since Insight has come aboard, and I know at the point in time when he came on, we were all questioning the decision, but over the last couple stages, he's basically proven himself to be, I mean, it's weird to say, but you could almost say he's been performing as the best main AR in the league. So when you bring in somebody like that and he doesn't really have a ton of LAN experience, That's a big question mark for me. Will they continue to play at the pace that they were over the last couple stages? Or will you see some of these squads who are more veteran laden, like Dallas, like OpTic, start to take control and get higher placings? And we have 2 stages worth of LAN events here. So you could easily see OpTic play really well in this LAN, play really well in the next LAN. And now all of a sudden, they're only 25 points between those 2 teams. And if OpTic goes on a bit of a run here, they could distance themselves quite a bit over just, well, what's basically a stage and a half now. I'm interested to see how we play also, just because I think when you look at Major Maniac and Priesta and obviously Attach, those dudes have been playing for quite a while, but very much so like what I mentioned with some of the other squads above and Insight and Hydra, how they have come aboard and really been what those squads needed to propel themselves forward. I feel like you can say that same thing for Standy. So I know that he's been in some of the bigger AM tournaments, and I believe it was the kickoff weekend last year in the challenger scene that he won that one also. But it's a different environment. Now, I know that there won't be a live audience and there's not going to be a ton of people out there chanting and whatnot, but still different from just playing in a small bedroom with your 3 teammates next to you and just a couple walls, right? It's totally different. And I know that—
Damn, you roasted our setup, man. Come on,
no, I'm just saying you don't have these big screens behind you, and you don't have people pointing at you. Yeah.
The stage rumbles, bro, because of the speakers in the venue. Like, it's a different environment entirely.
Yeah, 1,000%. So when I just look, I mean, basically, if I'm just looking at the teams that are really contenders right now, like, of course, you could say stuff about Paris, like, how is Zapdius going to play? Or you could talk about London and how is Paul X going to play, because he's been playing super well since he came into the league. But I really just tend to focus on those squads that over the last stage or two have made a huge impact when it comes to standings, and Toronto winning a stage and New York being super close. So when it comes to those squads, that's what I'm going to be looking at. Is you can almost tell right from the get-go, like, which of these guys are going to be for real and which of them are going to come out. Like last year, that very first weekend in Minnesota, when Shotzi came out and he went like 8-24 in that first hard point, and everybody thought, oh, this might be a different ball game. Maybe he's not ready for this. Now, that proved to be different because just 2 events later, they ended up
MVP
winning. Yeah, I mean, he turned into the MVP and they ended up winning an event a couple events later. But still, that first time on LAN, I guess it's a good thing that it's only stage 4, right? That would be terrible if the first LAN was stage 5, and then all of a sudden you got to go right into champs. And if you have a bad LAN experience, then would that be weighing on your mind or whatever? So yeah, if it's me, I want to see how those rookies are going to play and which ones seem to be for real and which ones seem like they might need a little bit more time in that environment before they really start to pop off.
I don't know if we ended up getting that clip or not. I think I saw in the DMs that Shannon said yes, we could play it, but I don't know if we actually have it. But it was a clip basically showing, if you have it, Shannon, you can just start playing it and I'll be quiet. Like, or if you switch the screen. Otherwise, I'll just describe it. So it was okay, good. So it was the RØKKR versus Dallas. It was a hard point. Dallas is up 2-1. I don't think it was at champs. I think it was at playoffs or something. I don't remember where it was. But the game came down to literally, it was 245 to 230 something. The RØKKR came back and made it 245 to 245, and they're just flooding the hard point, throwing bodies at the hard point. And it's 5v5, so it was just bananas. And the RØKKR ended up clutching up and winning, and it was on LAN, and you saw the experience. Tactical Rap put it at the end of one of his random videos today, and you just got to see them, like, the RØKKR stand up and dap each other up and get excited, and you could see the disappointment on Dallas's face. I think Dallas would go on to win the match, but you could see, like, disappointment. Now they got to go to map 5, and Krim was upset, and it was just like, man, I can't wait for LAN. I mean, it was like the moment I saw it, I was like, I just can't wait. I think I'll make it simple for me for when it comes to LAN. OpTic Gaming better show up. Like, for the things they've been saying in videos and dropping in podcasts and mentioning, even today, and these are the kind of tweets I think Formal has to watch out for. But he said, like, oh, so you're gonna hold that online one in high esteem, huh? You know, like, and I mean, but lucky for Krim, he's got 2 others that weren't online. You know, like, I think it's just, you got to be careful when you're throwing shots at a GOAT like that. Like, do not, I would not want Krim to be upset with me personally if I was playing against him. That's just my take on Crim6. Like, I don't want that guy putting any more time into beating my team. And I think OpTic has to show up, and they got to show out. The other team that I'm looking at that might have an actual good run at LAN is the LA Thieves. This team, I know.
I don't want that. That's a good point, but I don't want it to happen.
Well, the RØKKR could still have a good, event at LAN.
You never know.
I think the LA Thieves are going to do better than anticipated because, rumor has it, or I've heard, after this stage, you make your roster decisions for stage 5 and they stick through champs. So that means if Slasher and Hook want to come back just for a champs run because LA Thieves just wants to throw them to the Wolves, and maybe they're going to be in 7th or 8th place, but they're still going to make it because of their success earlier in the season when Slasher was on the team, then they might be like, let's just throw them on the roster. I'm sorry, Venom, you're getting benched. I know you're great. You're awesome. You're wonderful, but we're going to put Kenny and Draza, and they'll have to figure out roles and switch things up. But maybe they're just like, our best chance is to put these professional, experienced players that have played on LAN, that have played in COD champs before. Let's just throw them on the sticks. Hook won one last year. This is the same problem we had with Karma the year they dropped him off of OpTic, and he didn't play at champs. The 3-time champion did not play at champs.
Crazy.
Like, I was mind blown. I was like, how is Karma not on a team right now? This makes no sense. And to get dropped like 2 events before champs, anyway, OpTic has a lot to prove because they've been talking a lot of mess about LAN, online championship, onliners. Everybody calls Dallas onliners, LAN, online. There's a reason Dallas is always in the top of this league. They're good. They're a good team. They have good fundamentals. They do a good job. They play well, and they're just stupidly talented. And when they figure out how to work the talent right, they succeed. They almost beat New York. And for the LA Thieves, they have to. If I'm Venom, if I'm TJ, I'm leaving no question in your mind that I should be playing on this roster at champs. Period. Kenny doesn't have anything to prove. No matter what gun they put in his hands, he does well. He's the best player on the team. He's a vocal leader. They're not dropping Kenny. Draza's been playing great. He's been consistent. Venom and TJ, if I'm them, I'm playing my butt off so that I can prove that I belong on this team for champs. You better not drop me for, Austin or Kyler. And Hook and Slasher are sitting there waiting, like hoping. Because, these are storied players. Hook won a championship last year. He does not want to be sitting on the bench at champs. That team will work hard to figure out how can we get Hook to work in our favor. What other teams play like the way he plays, and how can we let him be free enough to where he can just slay people and give us the best chance possible at champs. I guarantee you JCap, Enable, Mud Dog, and Nadeshot are all thinking, how can we get Hook back on the roster as soon as possible for champs? And so there's some players that got something to prove on the Thieves so that they don't get dropped. And so I think they're going to play well at LAN.
That's super interesting. I never really thought about it like that. I view LA Thieves as they've kind of abandoned the Hook ship. They've abandoned the Slasher ship. And I think that I don't know. No camp knowledge here, but it seems like they wouldn't bring Hook back for champs because they bailed on him so soon. They saw something so early in him that they didn't like, that wasn't jiving with their team, that they were like, no. Which I thought that was really strange. I would see it the same way if Hook was still on the team and he was
right.
Not really looking so good. I thought they would for sure give him a little bit more time because, man.
Yeah, one match. Peace.
That bench's salary combined has got to be insane. I think it'll be really interesting to kind of see what plays out. I definitely agree that OpTic does have to step up fully to the plate. Not only have they just been alluding to all year and all last year, online lol, which that is, I agree.
It's
online
a factor,
law, yes,
for those guys.
It is a factor. I would agree 1,000% that LAN is better. But everyone's in the same freaking situation, dude. You're not the only one that's not on LAN. almost all of the teams are based in Dallas right now. It's like it's how it is. So yeah, I would say like with all of the emphasis put on online, like now it's time to really see. And I do think that they will play well. I think Formal especially, like he's not going to talk all this crap and then not back it up. He always backs it up. But I agree that picking on Crib6 or Dallas Empire, the only one I wouldn't want to pick on more than that is Clayster, because you do not want Clayster with fire coming out of his ears. It's going to be crazy. Will actually has a good question here. Is Slasher or Hook playing challengers or something to stay warm, or are they just getting thrown cold with only scrims, team practices to work off of? I think that Hook is not. I don't know, first of all. But
as far as I know, I don't think either of them is.
As far as what I could see, Hook is not, and I believe Slasher was maybe trying, but then didn't want to or whatever. And
he's
ended
not
up being the case.
Slasher's not.
And then I think you saw it obviously with MiDNiTE, who he got benched, and immediately, like the next day, dude was on a Challengers team. He's staying warm. He's playing in all those Challengers Cups. He's making sure that he's understanding how the game's evolving as it's being updated and whatnot. So you have to keep grinding if you get benched, if you're trying to get back on a starting spot. So yeah, I mean, that would be a huge factor of why I wouldn't want Hook or Slasher on for champs either. However, they're both incredible LAN players. I think Slasher, especially his career on LAN, has been incredible. Yeah. So he is a great player. I do think he'll still be in the league, but right now he is not. I don't see that changing. I think so OpTic, they gotta show up. It'll be fun if they do. I think it'll be awesome if they show up on LAN and somehow get matched against Dallas, and we will get a little bit of a I don't know, maybe like a little bit of a vibe check like we had in Minnesota when it. Yeah, the E-Classico where Huntsman faced Dallas, and then there was so much like friction at that point because of obviously Crim6 getting dropped off the team, and so I don't think there's as much friction right now. I think Formal's maybe just trying to get in the heads of Crim6 or the other pros in the scene. But because you saw the
timeline though.
Yeah, you saw that clip from the video where they asked Formal, they were like, hey, who do you wish you would have made a team change for and when or whatever? And he without hesitation was like, Crim6 Black Ops 3. Like, wow, did he know the questions, or was he just must have been thinking about that recently? Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty crazy, which kind of sparked off the whole thing. So anyway, man, I love Call of Duty though. I love the storylines that are always happening, following the Twitter timeline and the pros and kind of knowing what's going on as it's unfolding is, I think, one of the most exciting parts. A team that I think will do well on LAN. I mean, hey, let me be a homer for a sec. I think RØKKR is going to show up. I think it's time for them to show up. I think they need to show up. And LAN is the best possible place to do it. I think that the coaches will have them well prepared, and this is a very biased answer, but I think that they will do well at LAN. Hopefully, knock on wood. Let's get past 100. They're LA Thieves on the standings. But I do think, like, speaking of FaZe, and are they a dynasty? Are they the next dynasty? Or are they on the cusp of being a dynasty team? I think if they were to come back on the first LAN in over a year and win it, chef's kiss, man. That's looking really good for them. So I think, that's pretty likely to happen, but we'll see. It's all a part of the excitement. So let's talk about this week. RØKKR, huge week. We've said it, last week they played Seattle Surge. No offense to Seattle Surge, but if you're looking at the group, that is a game that you need to and should be winning to make sure that you put yourself in the best position to place top 3 in the group and get in a winner's bracket at LAN. That's what we're all playing for right now, and obviously the points for the standings. This week, it's our hardest week of the stage. Obviously, we started the stage off by playing OpTic. We got whooped. It wasn't fun. Then we were able to pick up wins against Paris and Seattle. Now on Friday the 11th at 3:30, right here on the RØKKR YouTube, come to the co-stream. We'll be playing LA Thieves, and then exactly 24 hours later, we will be playing Atlanta FaZe at 3:30 on Saturday the 12th. So, that's a tough weekend, especially when you consider the fact that LA Thieves is directly ahead of us in the standings, and that FaZe is just, they're playing so hot. They've been qualified for champs since like 5 months ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They've probably got the first seed locked up. They're just chilling. They're just vibing. They're expanding their map pool. They're doing what they're doing. But to me, this is where RØKKR proves, right? Like, you had the roster movement with MiDNiTE just before Stage 4 started. Is this where we try to see, like, is the team acclimated? What's the skill ceiling of this team? What's the benchmark? to hit here versus LA Thieves and Atlanta FaZe. And I guess, little preview here. We'll get into predictions later, but I want to know, like, what's your guys' thoughts? Do you think that RØKKR will be able to step up to the plate here and beat LA Thieves and compete with Atlanta FaZe, or do you think there's still too much unknown to really kind of pin that down?
I want to go first. I know IKON is I don't know. He will tell us how this can happen and happen well. Which is good. And I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I think they're going to beat the Thieves. I think that they're the better team. I think that they're very well prepared. I mean, both teams have good coaching units and are willing to make changes and switches and role changes and whatever it takes to win. I think this league right now is about matchups. I think the Thieves are a good matchup for the Minnesota RØKKR. I think they may be. I want to see how with Major Maniac they play against them. It's really a pacing thing that's gonna beat the Thieves. Like, I think they have to have good pacing, and I'll just say it. Like, Kenny's gonna be annoying. And the way that the Thieves got smacked around by FaZe, they might change some stuff. They might do some role swap. Who knows what the Thieves are going to do? Like, they were the one team that wasn't scrimming today, I think, and so it's like, what are they doing? They're planning something. That's when we get these weird tweets or something comes out like, oh, we've put in Hook for it's like, and so we'll see what happens. But I think for now, with these current two rosters, I think this is an opportunity for Minnesota, and it is a 20-point swing. Like, you either going to be down by 30 or down by 10. And so do you close the gap so that at LAN you're also in a better position because you're going to now also confirm yourself into the winners bracket? Like, whoever wins this match, this is very important for both of these teams. And so if Minnesota goes to the winners bracket and starts with like 10 points or whatever, and then can keep picking up some points and get a few wins, or get a few wins in losers, if they lose to FaZe or New York or something, like, then they're gonna see themselves in sixth place, which, yes, it is still possible. The Los Angeles Gorillas could make it to champs. I don't think the other three teams have an opportunity, but the Gorillas could. But they're going to have to Silly's point, which he made before they went 0-3. He said, we just have to have a good stage and then a good major, and he's right. A good major can get you 50 points. You could see the Los Angeles Gorillas at 130 or 120 right behind Florida, but they have to catch some wins during the group stage in order for that to matter. Like, they could get 75 points right now, win the entire event, and they're still going to be barely in seventh, and so that's unfortunate. And that's only if Florida and RØKKR get no points. The FaZe match, however, this is where matchups don't work for the Minnesota RØKKR, in my opinion. And I think the coaches would say the same thing. I think last year they did actually, maybe it was a seam, and I don't know if there was more pace in 5v5, but I thought last year the RØKKR matched up well against the top teams in the league. Like, they had a huge chance, especially in the first half of the season, to match up well against like the FaZes of the world and the Dallases and the OpTics or Huntsman, whatever. Like, they were in a good position. I think this year the RØKKR are looking good, but they've been very OpTic-ish with kind of like an up and down type deal, not necessarily a consistent, like, either we're plateauing and we're always beating certain teams and we get close with others. They've taken a couple tough losses this year, and I think versus FaZe, this team is just so hot right now. It's utterly ridiculous. Like, 4 of their 4 players are in the top 8 for KD in the league. Like, that's just like, you're half of the top 8 is your team. Like, they're very hard to beat. And I don't think Minnesota matches up well against them. Every team in this league can beat FaZe. It's possible. And the key to being a coach is figuring out, what do we need to do to beat them? What maps? Because that's going to matter. This team keeps expanding their map pool. I think Minnesota should do the same thing. In my opinion, teams that are kind of locked, yes, get your wins against the teams you need to win against, but why not go against FaZe? And maybe they do that in scrims. Why not go against FaZe on maps that you're a little bit more vulnerable on? And I'm not saying because you anticipate a loss, but more to expand your map pool and maybe pull something off that surprises them, because they won't know how to play the Minnesota RØKKR on maps that they don't normally play on. And so there's curveballs that I've seen in map vetoes going into this weekend. And I think if Minnesota can throw some curveballs, maybe they can steal a map or two and take it to 5, and then they have a chance. Like, of course, Minnesota has always had great potential as a search team. So, but I do think FaZe is they're the best team in the league. They're not just better than Minnesota. They're better than everyone right now. They're better than any 4 Call of Duty players you could put together in the world, probably. They would beat them in a 7 map series. Like, they would beat any team in the world. So, but they can be beat. So there's a chance. But LA, yes, LA Thieves still win.
I guess I'll start this off by saying I feel like, and we don't have a huge sample size to go off of so far, but I feel like this is the best iteration of the Minnesota RØKKR that we've seen so far this year. I think that they're playing super well. I think what Mike brings to the table is just different play style. You don't quite know where he's going to be. He pushes at times where main ARs really don't push, and he applies a ton of pressure around the map. I feel like when it comes to the matchup with the LA Thieves, I think it has to have a very similar play as to what we saw against Seattle. I think the biggest key is that the AR and the Flex had to match up with Octane and Gunless, and Priesta and MiDNiTE were able to do that. And I thought that once you did that, then your SMGs could be super aggressive and they could take over. And that's essentially how it played out. Attach and Standy just applied so much pressure that they were able to overwhelm Seattle. And when push comes to shove, it was just too much. I feel like against LA Thieves, I think it's very similar, because I think LA Thieves go as Kenny and Draza go. I feel like those two, like we see in many cases around the league, like when you look at Florida, they are propelled by Skies and Awakening. It's very similar to LA Thieves. They are propelled by Kenny and Draza. So when it comes to what is the path to victory in beating LA, I feel like your Flex and your Min AR have to play with them. And if you do that, then that gives the Standys of the world, the Abizis of the world, the Envoys of the world, that's how they have the opportunity to take over and beat a team like LA. So first is MiDNiTE and Priesta have to slay at least to the same level as Kenny and Draza. If they do that, I think that's what opens up the map. It opens up lanes for Standy to be super aggressive and get into those annoying positions where he gets, and ultimately how he ends up changing the pace of a map and basically the outlook of a series. So I think that right now Minnesota's just a better team than LA Thieves. Now anything can happen. It's not like, this is an AM squad or whatever. I mean, these guys are good. They have proven throughout this year that they can hang with everybody. Just when everybody thought, LA Thieves is a disaster, let's go ahead and let's just write them off. They went through, they made roster changes nobody expected, and then before you know it, they're right back, and people think, okay, power ranking, sure, they're somewhere in the 6, 7 spot, somewhere in there. So they've shown that they can just fix whatever's going wrong with them in a matter of a week and come back and perform basically the best that they have all year. But right now, I do think Minnesota's a better squad. I think if everything goes to plan, I think that we should probably win that matchup, and that should give us the 3 wins that we need to make it into winner's bracket. When it comes to Atlanta, I just feel like, like Kingdom said, you could easily say that they're the 4 best players in the world, and they just all happen to be on the same team. Like if you had that roster, if they showed up and, okay, we want to play for you, and you had the pick of anybody else in the league, like who would you replace any of them with? I'm not sure I would replace a single player from that squad. And when you're looking at matchups across the board, I don't know. That's why, like, even after Toronto came through and they were able to win that major and the next major, they were still playing hot. Toronto went 5-0 in their group play. And you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen in the stage 3 major? I just said Atlanta's going to win, just because I just have that much faith in Atlanta. That's just who they are. So when I look at that matchup, I just don't feel like it's a great matchup, because the play styles are so similar. Like if you look at what Standy does around the map, it is very much so like what aBeZy does. They are very similar players, but aBeZy is the best in the world at what he does. It's just it is what it is. He's the best at applying pressure. He's the best at playing aggressive in S&D. Yeah. He's the best when it comes to first blood percentage. It's super tough to hang with him when he's on. And you could say, well, maybe he'll have a bad day. Simp. But he just that just doesn't happen.
He just
right?
doesn't. He never has an off day, man.
And if he does,
what?
Right, yeah, you have the rest of their roster coming after you.
Right. And yeah, the rest of their roster. Well, speaking of the rest of their roster, I really feel like, and I know we've talked about, like you mentioned earlier, is this a dynasty squad? Can you say it yes or no or whatever? Another popular question is like, who would you consider to be the GOAT, or who is going to be the GOAT, or who's the Michael Jordan in our game right now? I feel like it's Simp. I feel like it's not even close. I feel like at any given moment, they can be down by 80 points in a hard point, and he can just go on a 12 spree and he can just turn around. Whether you put an SMG in his hands, an AR in his hands, if he wants to go in a round 5 control and go on a 10 spree to close out a map, he's the guy that can do that. And one of the things that he's best at, we haven't even seen this year because snipers aren't even in the game. So if you need somebody in S&D to just change the pace of a match and go to a game 5 and just win it for you, the dude, he never gets frazzled. He always plays his best. I mean, you're never going to see him come out and drop a 0.7 in a match or go 3 and 10 in an S&D. It just doesn't happen. So when you're playing them, it's like, okay, well, we have to try to counter aBeZy, and then, well, how do we counter Simp? Well, he's always lights out. And then Cellium might be their most consistent player this year. And then you have Arcades, who's, I don't know, top 1, top 2 AR. They're just filthy.
Arcades is, that's where I don't want to say I disagree with your Simp. That's what's hard about that team. You could pick any of them. Arcades, the plays he's calling, when it does get mixy and you see FaZe switch things up and you're like, how did they made the exact right play at the exact right moment, and things were crazy. They were getting slayed out for the 2 seconds that was happening. And it always comes back to, Alec told us what to do. Alec called it out. Alec. And still slaying out in every single match. None of us can name a time when one of those players had a bad group stage or a bad major where it's like, he didn't play well. That's what's hard, what's Lando saying? Simp is more of a LeBron in my eyes. He's allowed teammates to have their moments. I kind of agree, Lando, but I think also that that's Arcades as well, is that he just sticks to the leadership piece and is like, I'll sit back. He does what Crim6 used to be able to do, like last year, but Crim is not the same. He doesn't have the same shot anymore. And unfortunately for Crim, when he fries, they win. Like, it's almost like a no-brainer. If Crim does well, Dallas is winning. If Arcades does okay, FaZe wins. It's because of his leadership. I think his leadership is worth, giving him a couple points in that MVP hat. I really think that this is one of the most complete teams we've seen, and I know we're gassing them and all that. But one of the things that I heard Parasite say on a podcast that I thought was really good is he was like, as a pro player that's been playing this game for 10 years, this is worth admiring, because we're never going to get to see this type of consistent dominance probably ever again, because it breeds more consistent dominance. And I look at a person like Standy, I'm like, I see Standy, he's like frustrated when they lose, but he's also like taking it all in, because I look at what he does and I'm like, sitting under attached, like this dude, it's like an SMG that sits under Zuma. I would be like, they're going to be good. They're going to, like, Zuma gives good advice to SMGs, like about routes and things like that. Like, Attach is going to give some good juice to Standy, and he's just going to get better and better. And let's just hope he hits final form at Champs. Could happen.
This is what I'll say. If it was a fantasy draft and you had the number 1 overall pick and you could take anybody in the league, I think everybody's going to pick Simp. I don't even think there's a question. Right. I think I'm picking him, and I don't care what main AR I have. You can pick any of them. I just feel like he has the ability to take over a series, a major, whatever. So just going back to, how does this matchup between Minnesota and Atlanta play out? I just feel like in order to beat Atlanta, everybody on your squad has to have their best day. You have to have a Bance-like performance that we saw in the Stage 2 major when they were able to win. I think it just came out of nowhere. Like, now, Bance did have he had a really good major, and he's been playing really well after that. But in that final matchup, he was the best player in that series. And I think that's what it takes, is everybody else, Insight, best main AR since he's came aboard. Cammy, some of the best SND stats that you'll see throughout the league. CleanX is that a BZ-like player who has the ability to counter what a BZ does around the map. You don't see that very often from aggressive SMGs. And your other SMG has to have the series of their life. And then maybe you can pull through and you can beat Atlanta. So sure, it's possible. I think this weekend, Standy would absolutely have to get the best of a BZ. I think in SNDs, he would round after round have to put them in 4v3 scenarios where you can go from having to win 50-50 gun battles to playing trades and winning rounds of SNDs that way, and also in control, get those kills mid-map, be aggressive, push the pace, set up spawn traps that Atlanta can't get out of. I mean, we're talking about stuff that seems like it's impossible, but if you're looking for a path to victory, I think it starts with your AR and your flex being able to slay with Cillium and Arcades, and Standy has to come out and apply more pressure than a BZ does, and that's just super tough to do.
That's going to be really tough. I think it's kind of funny that we all kind of have 3 different MVPs on FaZe. Obviously, Simp is incredible. Arcades' leadership and shot calling is incredible. Cellium's so consistent, but a BZ applies more pressure than anybody else in the game, and I think that is also a huge, that constant blanket of pressure on the map from a BZ, and him, like, how few gunfights he seems to lose, especially in Search and Destroy. I think he really, he pops open the door for Arcades and Simp to come barreling through, and then, Cellium's coming in behind him like, hey, what's up? Like, they are a nasty team. So they are really close to being the next dynasty. What I would hate to see happen, knock on wood, I hope this doesn't happen. I'm not, Lord Von Dahar, look over us. But if RØKKR were to lose versus LA Thieves on Friday, we're in a really tough spot going up against FaZe, trying to make sure that we get into the winner's bracket for the major that will be on LAN.
They're not losing.
Reiterate it.
They're not losing to the LA Thieves. It's not happening. Yeah, no.
I got a question. Is this, so just looking at Simp and Abizi, is this the first time in the last, I don't know, decade plus of competitive Call of Duty,
so all of it,
that you wouldn't have an SMG duo where if Hex says, here, I'll give you top money, come play for OpTic. Is this the first SMG duo that says, no, I'm going to stay here with Atlanta because of what we built and what we have going on here?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, they're not saying yes. I can tell you that. Aches would probably never say yes to OpTic, but he didn't have a duo. Maybe him and TP, but TP went to OpTic, so.
I don't know. Yeah, they've really seemed to have adopted the FaZe lifestyle and brand.
Right.
They're both younger guys. It would probably depend on. Yeah, because in that scenario, if you're talking about swapping out 2 members of OpTic and then swapping in Simp and Abizi, that means Scump and Envoy are moving on to wherever they're moving on to, and I don't see that happening. But if in this theoretical world that you've made up, if that's a thing that has happened, Envoy says, "Hey, I'm done competing," or "Hey, I really want to go play with Slasher." I'm trying to think of the scenario that would make him want to leave OpTic. I just can't think of it. But and if Scump was like, "Hey, I could just go live stream and be myself and just be Scump," which is amazing. But Scump still got whatever.
If they win champs, he should retire. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, for sure. Drop that mic on a Treyarch
drop the
game.
ring.
Oh man. Drop it on a Treyarch game, baby. But I mean, so theoretically, would they say yes if that opportunity was there? They might, man. I don't know. Here's why I would if I was them. And I mean, this is so biased because I was in OpTic. The brand building, it depends if they like content. If they don't give a shit about content at all, then probably not. But if they say, hey, we're really good, we're the best, and hey, I'm thinking like 3 to 5 to 10 years down the line, what do I want to be doing? How long will I be the best for? Let me hop on that green wall, baby, and let's build this fan base up.
So
That could be an advantage as to why they would want to go to OpTic, but maybe they feel super ingrained in FaZe. I mean, they were with MiDNiTE where they were very ingrained for a little bit. It felt like they grew, quickly attracted there. So I don't know. What do you think, Kingdom?
I think that there's three teams that are very hard to leave in our league, and New York is starting to become the fourth. And I think next up is going to be Minnesota, even though they're one of the newer franchises in terms of old school. I think Atlanta, Chicago. I mean, basically FaZe, OpTic, and Envy. I think you think long and hard before leaving those, and you only go to one of the other ones unless you're dropped. And so at this point, I don't even think, and I'm going to say it, I don't think Shotzi would go play for OpTic. I mean, maybe he would if he didn't want to play for Krim anymore, and they're like, we're keeping Krim, and Shotzi's like, all right, well then I'm going to play for RØKKR, and I'm going to be the next scump because he's retiring. I mean, and think of that squad, Shotzi, Dashy, Formal, or a new main AR, and well, who would be there? Well, an Envoy, yeah. So that'd be disgusting, to see Shotzi and Envoy play together. It'd be gross. But I think that Simp and Abizi, FaZe is the only brand I think in Call of Duty that can compete with OpTic Gaming. When you look at their global size, FaZe is the most known gaming brand probably on the planet, and so I think in terms of, well, I maybe for FPS, I don't know, but I think that what FaZe has done with style and culture and just having all these famous people dropping, little FaZe ups all the time, and you see NBA players walking in with like full FaZe outfits on from Champion, and like
Ronnie James.
Yeah, Bronny James. Like these guys are full companies, have like partnerships with them that are. I mean, they're not gonna have to worry about anything for a very long time, and they'll be able to pay 6 coaches if they need to make sure this team stays best. And when you give a player all of that, when you surround them with, you're surrounding Simp and Abizi with Arcides and Celium, and then they're 4 coaches, and you guys are not doing the best at search, even though you're the best team still. Let's get Tupac to come in and help us with search, and now they're flawlessly beating teams, and it's just, that's attractive to me. I mean, I would say as a player, if I'm Simp and I'm like, this is what you're going to invest in me for my future, okay, you're always going to put the best. That's what RØKKR gave to Scump technically, and the only time they got feathers ruffled was when he wouldn't drop Nadeshot, and Nadeshot dropped himself, and then they became the best roster ever put together. We'll see if it stays that way because this roster is disgusting. So I don't think that they would leave and go to, I'm just going to say it, I think that little year off, or 2 years, however long it was, I think the OpTic brand was diluted a little bit, and it gave other people a chance to come into the game. It gave teams a chance to hire former OpTic members and make them heads of content and do great things with their team and have podcasts and interview players and stay in the forefront of this industry and have nice looking gear and merch, and like, there's teams that have crept in and made, like, Dallas's brand is solid, like a very solid brand. If they didn't have Krim, the probably OpTic fan base would like them a little more, but it's like, and New York is up, they're on the rise. Like, look, the flank, that's a New York show basically, like that whole brand, the New York Subliners.
New York is cashing out on that, man.
They hired the first COD mobile guy, Bobby Plays. They got him. Like, New York is making moves for their total brand, and that's another team where I don't know if a scene would leave New York and go play for OpTic even. It's really like, I think the league is changing because you can get the same opportunity money wise, and maybe in a smaller market you can get more money. You can get the same opportunity money wise in this league, and every team is professional now. Every team is putting coaches into it. Every team is playing their hardest, except for some of the ones at the bottom. Technically, yeah, you wouldn't want to play there because it's the championship caliber, the culture isn't on the Seattle Surge. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what's missing, and they can't find that. You can't fabricate it. It takes time to develop. Seattle Surge fired their general manager this year. They changed things. Like, it takes time. Minnesota RØKKR are probably the best team that's come into this league as a new brand that have found a lot of success. And that's why you guys have players like Attach. That's why someone like Standy, who's definitely in this league for the foreseeable future, came to the Minnesota RØKKR and was excited when they hit him up. It's so I don't know. I don't think Chicago is what it once was. I hate to say that because I'm a Greenwall lover. Everybody used to call me an OpTic fanboy back in the day. All of my best videos are about OpTic, but I just don't think it's the same team.
I think content-wise, Will DuPont made a great point in the chat. So I think Simp and Abizi will stay with FaZe since their culture is just winning. They don't really care about YouTube content, which does seem kind of obvious based on like what they kind of divvy up their time. They just want to win championship after championship. It depends on what they want. If you want, OpTic is I think the biggest organization in the CDL, right? Like as a fan base, but they're not known for winning every event. Trust me, I was on the team for 9 years. It was third place after third place, then you bounce down to ninth, and then you won one, so we're up now. Like it was a crazy roller coaster ride. And then obviously there was a dynasty age, which was super cool. Excuse me. And damn, I don't know why my voice is leaving me. Sorry about that.
You're talking about OpTic.
No, I'm not even choked out. My throat literally just hurts. But so OpTic, like they've built such a powerhouse, not only with the players and the personalities that are on that team, that for me, obviously a bias to content direct, like a content person, I'm gonna say, hey man, why try to become the GOAT? Which I think Simp is probably he has the best shot of anybody right now to become the new GOAT, right? Like from where he's started and how successful he's been at only the start of his career, like it makes sense for him. Yeah, stay with FaZe, go for chip after chip after chip, pile them up. Maybe one day you become the biggest earner, you pass Crim and chips, and you become the new GOAT. You become the Tom Brady before Tom Brady or after the Tom, you know what I'm saying? So like it's possible. So I don't know. If I was them though, shoot, man. I will say FaZe is like a huge brand. They're very recognizable. They've got the clout. That's for certain. But they have a lot of members. There's a lot of attention that gets spread out across that entire roster of creators and members.
Yeah.
But with OpTic, it's a very secure group. If you get brought onto the team, it's a big deal, right? That means that they see an investment in you. If you see, Simp or a BZ joining that, like, I don't know. If I'm them, I'm looking at that as like, yo, I can be really nasty, but also like, let's formulate the plan for 5 to 10 years down the line. But I do think, to the point, and I love this random hypothetical, by the way. I think it's fun to just speculate. I do think Simp and Abizi, and especially Simp, like he is primed to become the LeBron. Like if Crim is the MJ.
We'll debate it forever. Yep.
Yes, they'll debate it. Simp, or it'll be Simp versus Scump, and it'll be like who's the best of all time and the most consistent, and it's crazy.
See,
man.
I'm not even having that conversation until Scump retires, and Simp's got to be in the league for like 5 years. Like,
true, yeah.
Seth has been consistent from day one. This kid has been like utterly ridiculous, and when they tried to talk about his stats in that video where Formal said something negative, Scump's like, wait a minute, I had like the best, KD on the team for, 2 of the game modes. Like, don't forget about me. He's like, I don't have the worst shot on the team. I'm still Seth, and that's the thing. It's like, Scump has done it like year after year after year after year after year after year after year. And yeah, the greatest SMG of all time. That's not arguable right now, but maybe in 5 years.
Yeah, I'll finish this out by saying, I think Simp will, when he's all said and done, will be the best player that there's ever been. I think this Atlanta squad will probably be the biggest dynasty that we've ever seen. And I think if you just look like since the creation of the CDL, and like you mentioned with that OpTic brand kind of going away for a year, I think if you took us old heads out of it that have been around the scene for a decade, I think in the last 2 years, if you just look at new fans, I think Atlanta's probably got the biggest fan base. I don't know that it's close. Like if you took those people that just discovered COD since Warzone has been a thing, or since the creation of the CDL.
Yeah, because OpTic definitely is. They're they're number one. But
an interesting little comment from Will. He says, "I don't know. I just don't see Simp playing beer pong for risky questions."
That's valid. That is valid.
That's facts, though.
Yeah, that is probably true. He's very he wants to. I think he wants to just keep winning. He's manufacturing it at this point. He's so good, and I've not seen a player start this hot, like winning champs this soon. This is not even Scump did not do that back in the day. I've been watching Scump since he came on. Since he was on Leverage in Black Ops 1.
Chronic Leverage.
Literally like super bright red hair, 14 years old or whatever, on the main stage just cheesing. And yeah, you've got Simp now who, he started a little bit older because of the new rules at the time. But yeah, he won champs like as a rookie.
I forgot that year. Like, to be honest, the United year, but of course that snipe play where he just annihilated the entire team. Like, I'll never forget that. I will hear, I don't remember who it is that's screaming, one of the casters that's screaming Simp over and over and over. Like, I think
it was Maven.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get
I miss
the sniper
man.
back, and land. Like, we're spoiled. This is one of the greatest seasons of competitive Call of Duty we've ever had, and it's just getting more dicey. And them eliminating the bottom 4 technically makes it so that there will be no easy matches at champs. If you take these top 8 teams, that's a tough bracket from jump. Nobody's getting a bye. Like, I don't care who you're facing. You better be ready. Like, champs is going to be bananas.
The seeding matters even more because of that. So speaking of LAN, speaking of champs, what are we all doing here leading up to this, man? We got group matches, and it sounds like, group play, whatever. But hey, these points are freaking important, and we got some sick matchups this weekend. And obviously, this is the last home series. It's the LA Thieves home series before Stage 4 Majors, which is next week on LAN, Local Area Network. We're going to see if Latach, Landtach, Landy, Major Laniac, Landsta, let's see if they can show up, baby. But before then, we've got to get through one more weekend of online COD. So let's look at the schedule here. Let's take a look at some predictions. We got Toronto Ultra versus LAG. Let's get through this quick here. Toronto Ultra will 3-1 LAG in my opinion. We'll see what happens. What do you guys got?
Oh, dang it. I'm going to go 3-2 Gorillas.
I take your
need the points.
Wait, you're going Gorillas?
Yeah,
for the upset
I need the points. I need them. Look, a safe 5 points, or I could get like 20 off of this one match if I get it right. Like, because the upset points is like 10, so like I could get 20 points off this match if I get it right. So
listen, you need to go back to old episodes and research how those calls ended up working out.
Did not go well.
I rarely ever call for upsets. Like, it's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
Like, but
I mean, Ultra has, if you could consider it a low, they're in a tiny bit of a lull after their super hot streak. So
I hope the Gorillas just are like, I want to shut all these people up. MiDNiTE didn't remember my name. Apathy's going to be on the sticks.
I'm so sorry, Apathy. I literally shouldn't be on a Call of Duty podcast for getting his name. It's
legit.
Not you, it's me, okay? It's my memory.
I'm legit going 3-2 Gorillas. I'm taking the risk.
That's unbelievable. I
know.
All right. I think I like 3-1 also. So I think Toronto wins 3-1. Then when it comes to Chicago versus Seattle, I think that'll also be a 3-1. I think Seattle will probably win the S&D. You know what? No, I'm not even going to give them that. I'm going to say 3-0 OpTic in that one. So 3-1 Toronto over LAG, and then 3-0 for OpTic.
Man, I was really hoping you were going to say the 3-1 because I was going to be, dude, they're going to 3-0 them, and I was going to get the extra. So, guys, if you don't know, we are keeping track of all of our points here for our predictions, and the race is getting close. So it's not only am I considering, okay, the rosters, the team, where how they've looked lately, power rankings, all that, all factors into my prediction. But then also, I'm after getting the correct maps, the map line. I'm after getting the win. If you got to get those extra points where you can. So, yeah, I mean, here, look at us. Wow, the race is getting tight between me and IKON. I had a perfect day, bro. I not only
Flawless.
guessed, I shouldn't say guess, I predicted with my crystal ball that those 3 teams would not only win, which we all did except for Kingdom, F in the chat, but I also predicted the maps correctly, which that's it. That's, hey, man, I'm not sure if am I the only one that's done that this season on the show? Probably
nobody's
not.
had 30 points straight. Like, I don't think anybody's had.
I'm just going to say, I think there was a bit of strategy involved here, because how many of those picks did you wait until we made a count and then you agreed that team was going to win, but you just picked a different map count so you could try to get those points.
And I'm about to do it again. OpTic 3-1 over Surge. Let's go. I think it'll be a 3-0, but I'm going to predict a 3-1. What is this show anymore?
I'm saying 3-1 OpTic. 3-1 OpTic.
Nice. Fizz buffs on that. All right, let's go to Friday. Hey, I'm going to go first for the rest of this and still win out this weekend. Let's freaking go, baby. Friday, New York Subliners versus London Royal Ravens. Man, London, they were looking all right there for a sec. Like, they were on the come up. Then they made 2 people switch out on their roster, which questionable a little bit, but hey, they still look okay. Like, maybe they're going to find their footing. But man, New York is coming off hot versus a big win versus Dallas. They've got, they just, I think Subliners is going to take this one. I think it'll go 3-1. That's my finger in the wind there on that. And then I'll just go next for the next match, LA Thieves versus Minnesota RØKKR. RØKKR, I mean, we talk about it, guys. LA Thieves is just 20 points ahead of Minnesota RØKKR. We win, we're within 10. We lose, we're down 30. That's how far away we are from 6th, and you don't want to be there. The seeding matters so much for champs. So, got to get that win, and especially considering the next day, one sleep later, you're slated to play Atlanta FaZe. This is a must-win match if you want to end up in the upper bracket for local area network next week. So, hey, I think RØKKR is going to come out with it. LA Thieves, they've been looking super, like, pendulum swinging lately. They look okay, and then they look terrible, and they look okay. They're due to look okay, but I'm still going to go with RØKKR. 3-2, man. I think it'll go the distance. I think the search and destroy will be an interesting slugfest, and RØKKR will take it 3-2. I'll let Kingdom go ahead and predict Friday.
New York. Gosh, they better show up. I think they're exposed right now. I could tell even when they won, it wasn't one of their more like they got the blessed spawn in map 1. They got that comeback in the last map, and I think it was a few mistakes that Dallas doesn't normally make on standoff. So I think they're exposed. I don't think the Ravens will take them, though. I think it'll be Ultra. And so I think I'm going to say New York Subliners 3-0. And then Minnesota RØKKR 3-2. I do think the Thieves are going to turn up and show up, and they might beat OpTic, but we'll see. But I think 3-2 RØKKR.
Yeah, I look at these matchups. I think that London was starting to gain some traction, and they made the roster move. I just don't think that they've recovered from that yet. I do think that they'll get better, similarly to how they did before. But their last 2 matches, an 0-3 loss to Florida, 0-3 loss to Toronto, and it doesn't get any better with New York. And New York did just beat Dallas, like we've talked about, a Dallas squad that I think is better than they were a couple weeks ago. I think that they're slowly but surely climbing up, just like Dallas always does. So I'm going to also say a 3-0 here for New York. And then when it comes to Minnesota versus LA Thieves, I think this is going to be a 3-1. I just don't think right now that LA Thieves is playing super well in hardpoint. And if Minnesota wins either of the first, 2 out of the first 3 maps, there's no way it gets to a map 5. I just think that they're not that far off of the 250 to 14 hardpoint loss to Toronto and the 250 to 80 hardpoint loss after that. I just think that they're a little bit behind when it comes to hardpoint. And it's actually weird to say, but Minnesota's looking pretty impressive in hardpoint. So I think it's going to be 3-1. I think if they make it to a map 4, I just don't see how LA Thieves gets it to a map 5. 3-1 Minnesota.
Ooh, man. Yeah, that is, I mean, obviously a ton of implications for RØKKR, but that is looking like one of the most just exciting matches for the weekend. Moving on to Saturday here, we got LAG versus London Royal Ravens. Man, both of these teams need wins so freaking bad at this point.
This is a tough one.
I don't know who wins. This is a coin flip in my opinion. I do think that both teams are going to be playing really hard. I think, LA Gorillas, they're obviously super focused, but we got London Royal Ravens. They did make the team change. They've had 3 super tough opponents leading into this match. Gosh, yeah, I don't know, man. This is a coin flip. I'm just guessing. I low-key wish IKON predicted first here, so I copy somewhere. But I think London Royal Ravens could beat Gorillas. I think it'll be a 3-1. I don't know if Gorillas will be able to hang in the respawn. We'll have to see. Hopefully, London Royal Ravens, after these 3, or at least 2 tough matches that we know of, they'll start to have a little bit of an uptick, but we'll see. I'm just going to predict the rest of Saturday here as well. So Atlanta FaZe versus Minnesota RØKKR. Boy, oh boy, do I really hope that RØKKR can beat LA Thieves on Friday, because you do not want to be put in a position where you have to win versus Atlanta FaZe in order to make the upper bracket for Local Area Network next week. Woo, let's go. I'm so excited. But yeah, this is crazy. And I always homer pick RØKKR. I never predict RØKKR to lose. And that's not changing. I think RØKKR's going to take it, man. 3-2, baby. Shock the world. Let's go, boys.
Gosh, I hope you don't get those points.
Hey, that's an upset. Hey, man, write that down. That's an upset. 3-2. And the upset points, IKON just started sweating bullets. I could see. But then we got Dallas Empire versus Florida Mutineers, and yeah, man, Empire's coming off that super tough L versus Subliners. Florida Mutineers, they're so hot and cold all year, hot and cold. I'm not sure which Florida we're gonna get here, but I do think this is also one of the highly touted matches for this weekend. It's gonna be pretty nuts. So I think Empire will take it 3-0. F it, why not?
Let's
I think
go,
it's possible.
MiDNiTE.
You think that's possible?
Let's go.
I think it's possible. We'll see. All right, IKON, you want to go next for Saturday?
Yeah, I'll go second here. I think when it comes to LAG versus London, like I said before, London, I think that they're just spinning their wheels a bit right here. Last time we saw LAG in their matchup against Florida, they actually won the control 3-0, and they only lost the map 1 hardpoint by 15. So they're hanging with one of the top 4 power ranking squads right now. So will they play that way every single time that they play? Probably not, but I just feel like they have the ability to play that way, whereas I'm not quite sure London does yet. So I'm going to say, and if it goes to a map 5, I think LAG's, not even a thing, their best game mode by far is S&D, so I just don't see how they would lose a map 5 S&D. So I'll go 3-2 LAG. When it comes to Atlanta versus Minnesota, I'm actually really excited for this because I want to see, it's been a while since we've really seen how Minnesota stacks up to one of these top tier squads. As of late, they've been playing, the Paris, the Seattles of the group. We saw them against OpTic and it didn't go well, but I think that there's been some growth since then, since Major Maniac has come back into the fold. So I'm interested to see how this goes. The only difficult part here is in what game mode do you beat Atlanta in? And that's the tough one. So I'm going to say 3-1. I think maybe Minnesota surprises them and takes the S&D, but I'm going to go 3-1 Atlanta. And then when it comes to Dallas versus Florida, this is another coin toss for me. I feel like if you get good Florida, it could be a 3-0. If you get bad Florida, I don't think they're going to get 3-0'd. This is, for me, this is probably the hardest one of the entire week to predict here. I don't know. I'm going to go, I'll say it goes map 5, and I think Dallas clutches up. I'll go 3-2 Dallas in map 5.
All right. The Gorillas and the Ravens. I mean, no disrespect, because these 12 teams are all amazing and great and fantastic. But I honestly feel like I could flip a coin here. Like I feel like they're both in a similar spot of predictably, unfortunately, below a lot of teams in the league, and when they're playing each other, that's where they get their wins. I mean, 1-12, and so it's going to be 2 13 after this match, and so it's tough. I look at who the Gorillas played the day before, look at who or 2 days before, look at who the Ravens played the day before. They're playing the top 3 teams, one of the two, each playing the top 3 teams. So they're probably going to be 0-4 going into this match. One of them will get a win in this stage. And so they're going to play hard, but I have no idea. It's like if you told me the Hornets and the I was going to say the Jazz. If you told me like the Hornets were playing like, I guess, the Sacramento Kings or something, I'd be like, I don't know. So I'm going to but I want to get it right because I need these points. So
gotta nail it, man.
I'm going to say 3-1 London. I'm just going to throw it out there. They've got this new team. They're getting better each time they play together. Hopefully they can bring it together and get a win. FaZe versus Minnesota. I'm going to... That's hilarious. I want to tweet that out.
Let's go, Chad.
Oh my gosh. FaZe and RØKKR. I'm gonna say FaZe is gonna win this 3-1. Honestly, it's hard to give people maps against FaZe because it's not just their match count that's ridiculous. Their map count is stupid. I don't think they've lost more than 10 matches or maps. Well, they had to have lost more than 10 maps. I'll have to look up what that number is. But I think wait, I have it right here. They are
91-37.
91-37. So that's just stupid. So they're going for 100 games won. That's dumb. Anyway, they're going to win 3-1 in my opinion. I think Minnesota RØKKR are going to put up a fight. I don't know what map or mode they're going to win. I can't tell against FaZe because they're so good at everything. But I think they're going to put up a fight. And that's all I want to see. I'll be blatantly honest. One of the things that's disappointing about OpTic is they can dominate the teams below them in the standings, but the 4 teams above them in the standings, their stats are horrible against those teams. And their overall map count, what they do in each game mode, is bad against Toronto and New York and FaZe. And I think that, except for, I'll throw Dallas out of there because they're kind of in a weird space right now. But I think that FaZe is just great, and the Minnesota RØKKR, I think, I just want to see them put up a fight. I want to see it be competitive. OpTic has gotten smashed by FaZe 20 and 30 minute, matches the last 2 times they played them, and I'd love to see the RØKKR kind of step up and be like, we're a little bit better than that. With the Dallas match, whoever wins this is going to winner's bracket. Florida right now is 3-1. Dallas is 2-2. Whoever wins this is not only going to be 3-2, but they're going to have the head-to-head against the other team. So they're going to be second behind New York, and then it doesn't really matter what Toronto does or New York does. Whichever team wins this, I believe, is for sure in the top 3. And so this match, it's the marquee match on Saturday. It matters for a lot of marbles. I do think Dallas is going to take it. I'm going to say 3-1, but they could lose. Absolutely. Florida is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So, but I hope they lose because I'm predicting that. So I'm going to say 3-1 Dallas.
You want me to go first for Sunday?
Yeah, sure. I'll write down your answers real quick.
All right, Sunday, Paris versus Seattle. I feel like right now Paris is just the better squad. They got the 3-1 victory over LA Thieves in that matchup that we co-streamed against Minnesota. I was a little bit nervous for that one because Paris is playing really well in SND, and that map 4 hardpoint was like 250 to 247. So I did not want that to go to a map 5, but the guys clutched up. So right now, I just think Paris is the better squad, even though they did get cooked by OpTic in their last matchup. I just think against Seattle, they're bringing way more to the table. So I'm going to go 3-1 here for Paris. New York versus Toronto, this is another super tough one, just mainly because we really haven't seen Toronto against a top squad too much in the last, basically since this stage. I mean, yeah, they're 2-1, but their victories, obviously we haven't seen them against New York. So we'll see what happens. I just think New York is coming off a really impressive victory against a Dallas squad that is better than we thought they were a couple weeks ago. And I think Hydra's probably going to be the best player on the map. So I'm going to go New York here. I think it'll go map 5. And when it comes to map 5, clutching up in map 5, that's what Clayster does. So I'll go 3-2 New York. And then OpTic versus LA Thieves. I mean, OpTic's looking pretty strong right now, and LA Thieves is not. I think once LA Thieves gets a loss to Minnesota on Friday, it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from that, because they'll be 1-3 in the stage, not really going to have much to fight for, because OpTic's going to get that win over Seattle. So they're already going to have 3 wins. So there's no way that this would determine who ends up making winners or doesn't make winners. Yeah, I just think OpTic is playing really well right now. And LA Thieves, I think that they'll get better once they figure it out after their most recent roster move. I'm going to go OpTic. I'll go 3-1. I'll give them a map. 3-1 OpTic.
Sheesh.
Okay. I will. This is hard. We're predicting that the Surge by the end of this weekend are going to be 0-12 in their last 12 matches.
Hey man, they gotta break our record from last year. Let's go, boys.
Well, they're going to when they play OpTic on Thursday. They're going to break the record and then keep it going, I guess. Why not? You know, just like, hey, might as well keep the streak alive. Like, sorry, Surge players, that's not funny. But these matches, these two. The Gorillas and the Ravens and the Legion and the Surge are so hard to call, because if they show up, they'll beat the other team. You know, it's really like they might not beat New York or OpTic or, you know, FaZe or even the RØKKR, but they could beat the other team. And so I'm just going to say that after losing 12 in a row, the Surge are going to surge and have a win. And it's going to be like 4 total wins for the bottom 4 teams. You know, why not? So I'm going to say the Surge are going to win, especially since Paris already has one. You got to share, you know, like, so I'm going to say it. I'm going to
think about here swinging for the points,
Yeah,
man.
right.
I've made the same mistake with Surge so many times, man. I don't recommend.
3-2 Surge, dang it. New York and Ultra. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Surge did beat RØKKR in Hardpoint, and like, you know, I thought we were better in Hardpoint than that. So Surge, I mean, they're there. They just can't get all the way.
Yeah, they can't close series, and it's unfortunate. And I'm gonna say this is gonna be a banger. New York versus Ultra. When I said they were exposed, you know, Hydra's sick. Asim is still not in the U.S., but his stuff is. There's a lot going on with that. And I don't know what the heck is going on with Clay, but he just was not in the mood for Call of Duty in their last match, and maybe it's because of Hydra, maybe it's, I don't know. But Asim he just is very consistent. But Ultra definitely have something to prove. Like, we still belong in the conversation. You know, I think that's what, if they can end their group 3-2 or even 4-1, I think they want to prove that, and I think it's going to be tough when they play New York. And since I know you're both probably going to predict New York, I'm going to say Ultra 3-2.
Wow,
and
the tricks.
For the OpTic match, is it an upset? Is it an upset? Is it an upset? Is it an upset if I call for LA and they win? Is that an upset?
I mean, they're 5 and 6 in standings. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
true.
The Thieves
are
like
5 and 6. They're down bad. I don't know.
All right,
did we ever? What's the referee weigh in here? Do we
Shannon,
go up predictions off of standings or predictions off of power rankings?
My prediction.
I feel like you gotta go standings, man. That's my
probably
2 cents.
It makes sense.
2 cents.
Even though I think if Dallas beat FaZe, that'd be an upset. You know.
Facts. Well, I mean that would be pretty predictable.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
They're also far and away the best team in the league, though.
Yeah, it's first. It's like 2, 3, 4, and then first is like
up
infinite.
Here.
Yeah,
they're in their own tier. Somebody said that. I was like, that's true. They are in their own tier right now.
Think of it as like the CDL standing points are like levels of a hotel, and FaZe is on the roof.
In the what do you call it? They like to have the whole floor to themselves. Like,
yes, they got the presidential.
There you go, the presidential suite. Yeah. Crap. This is a hard one because I think OpTic can be beat. I think the LA Thieves can beat them, depending on how they're playing. If they take a tough loss to the RØKKR, they're going to want to get a W. OpTic may be safe at that point in the winner's bracket and troll a little bit. 3-2 Thieves.
Wow, that's a valid point.
I'm
They
going for
might
points.
troll
I could end this week with like, you know,
0.
and still
Yes.
I could end this week and still be 80 points behind if I get everything right. I'll still be like 80 points behind you guys.
I hope you do. I believe in you. Kingdom, I believe in you. Man, I can't even remember the predictions you guys made, so I'm just gonna go with my gut here. Paris Legion versus Seattle Surge. I hate to say it about Surge, but man, they're living in Chalksville. It's just not coming together. They're still putting out good efforts. Feels like the players are playing pretty individually. I wonder, like, if I don't know. I guess they were trying really hard together at the beginning of the year, but yeah, it's just like individual performances going out there. Paris has been looking really good lately. They were scary when we played them. They've been able to pull some upsets, so I think Paris will take it against Seattle Surge. I'll go 3. Oh man, I don't know. Seattle Surge did win that hardpoint versus RØKKR, and they were like looking a little scary sometimes. But I don't know. Paris might come out with the heat because they're gonna. I believe I'll have to look at the standings of the groups, but I believe Paris will be hurting for a W on that day. Then you got New York Subliners versus Toronto Ultra. Man, I don't know, man. Toronto's just they haven't looked the same lately. And subliners have been looking really good. You mentioned that Hydro is sick and Asim's got some sort of like locale issue. I still think subliners is going to take this. I don't know if it's going to go map 5. Oh man, it's tough. I'm going to go subliners 3-1 over Ultra. It makes sense to me. I don't know. We'll have to see. If Ultra just comes out frying, then I think they could easily win this. But I don't know. You can't doubt Clayster, man. It's a week before LAN. He's got to be getting tuned up. Then you got Sunday, to round out the weekend, Chicago OpTic versus LA Thieves. This is going to be a classic match. I wish that, like, when it was on LAN, that we would see Nadeshot and Hector, like, mud wrestle or something before this marquee match. That would be sick. But no, we got, what does it say about me that I want to see Nadeshot and Hector mud wrestle? What the heck? Kind of inside the mind of MiDNiTE.
Those are your homies.
So Chicago OpTic versus LA Thieves here to round out the weekend. I wasn't really thinking about it until Kingdom said it, but OpTic may be well and be qualified for the winners bracket.
You should still pick OpTic though, I think.
Really, right? Because
pick Thieves. Go for it.
Because I picked the right side of Sunday, and you guys picked the left so far. So I'm I'm really hoping for these points.
I think if there's a scenario, I'd have to look at the group standings right now. My brain can't remember it, but the Chicago OpTic, if they are in a place where they're in winners, and sometimes, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but sometimes when you're looking at the group, the difference between 1, 2, and 3, sometimes those matches you end up in are not as favorable if you're the first seed. I don't know how that really works, but what if they're, I mean, I'm not saying OpTic would throw, but I'm just saying if they're already in a spot they want to be in the winners bracket,
they might troll,
like maybe
right?
they try something different. They try to expand their map pool. They play weird on search and do something different. I'm not sure. All that is to say, I do think OpTic will still win this match. I'm going to go... I said OpTic with 3-0 Surge. I think it'd be funny if they also 3-0'd LA Thieves and just really stamped their ticket into LAN next week. I think they'll be... If Formal's online talking all this smack, they got to start, playing dominant, right? So that factors into too. So yeah, OpTic 3-0 over La Thieves. Thieves is scary though, man. I'm looking at that RØKKR Thieves match and I am shaking, dude. That is a tough match, man. LA Thieves, they are better than how I just predicted them for this weekend. But hey, there we go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Rotation. And you listening or watching, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or wherever else you could listen to podcasts. I'm not sure. I'm a boomer now. I really appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you subscribe, like, rate, tell your aunt about us, all that cool stuff. Really appreciate the support. We will be back
Give me points,
next
please.
Tuesday. Yes, get those points, baby. We'll be back next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. I think we may try to have a guest since it's like the LAN week. I think it'd be kind of lit to like have a fourth person on and just really like get nerdy with it. We will know the matchups for LAN that week. We will be able to give solid predictions. It's gonna be a sick show. I can't wait. But before then, we will be playing. RØKKR will be playing on Friday at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and you can watch the match right right here on the RØKKR YouTube. It'll be myself and IKON breaking down the action between the maps. So you still see the CDL stream. Everything looks the same. It's still nice quality, but you'll get some commentary from IKON and I in between the maps. So RØKKR plays LA Thieves at 3:30 Central on Friday, the 11th of June, and then the next day, another overnighter. One sleep later, we're playing Atlanta FaZe at 3:30 Central on the 12th. So two days in a row, 2 matches in a row. Must-win match if you want to end up in the winner's bracket, baby. Let's go, boys. I'm hype. All right, everybody. Yo, what's up, Sir Epic the Fourth? I remember you. What's good? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you guys next time. We'll see you then.